All right, legends, we have here a very interesting video because as you guys know, Diablo Immortal, it is also a Chinese game in a way because NetEase is the ones that develops it together with the Blizzard, and it's been heavily influenced the recent decisions for Diablo Immortal. Also, we had whales quitting. So today we're gonna react here to a video which is China Millionaire MMO whales to see exactly how deep it goes, the culture of whaling in China.
Out my mobile game, showed you my level 900 powerful character, chances are you'll call me a loser. If I did that in China, chances are you might call me a boss.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more like the chance of you calling me a cool guy is higher because more people play video games in China.
Yeah.
This is fantasy west.
It is a cultural thing. It is absolutely true.
Journey, a 25-year-old game. Yet some players in China spend up to millions of dollars to keep their accounts competitive.
What?
第1名150级无级别愤怒加凝神诀腰带
What is this game?
纯交价1200万
What?
全服最贵1200万是什么概念呢？等于北京3环一套房的首付
Down payment of a house in a ring. What? What? First of all, why are you playing this game?
了啊！我们玩的是游戏，土豪玩的是房地产。
And there was even a case of money laundering by Chinese officials using this game. And this is a player in another old game called
Bro, it has the Diablo Immortal Wings cosmetic, man.
Legend of Mir 2. The player 8L spent tens of millions of dollars so that he could 1 versus 200 players in this game. Keep in mind, this was 2003.
Oh my god.
Welcome to Unclassified China, where we deep dive on issues in China. And today's topic is China's crazy microtransaction culture. Now, you might hear that someone dropped $40,000 in a video game called Where Winds Meet so that everybody can ride on this magical boat. And you might think that this guy is crazy. Why would you ever drop 40 racks on a video game? Or somebody in Japan dropped 70,000 USD worth on a mobile game. It sounds outrageous. But let me tell you, these are rookie numbers. A Chinese streamer named Ghost Uncle dropped a whopping 2.6 million USD, equivalent to around 18.
To be fair, in Diablo Immortal, we know that there are whales that spend about $1 million to $1.5 or $2 million. But it was not in just one account, okay? It was in multiple accounts. But we are talking about massive numbers. What the hell we're talking
million
about?
Yuan on a mobile game called Naruto Mobile.
是哪个托？他能托1810万的？
It's a Chinese exclusive mobile game. And that game generated 22 million USD in revenue last month from China alone.
Bro, half of these 22 million just came from that guy.
All right, so 18 million yuan on a single game. It takes a regular Chinese employee 100 plus years to not even earn that much money. Ghost Uncle, according to some sources, is likely the son of a real estate developer in a county, not even a city level in China. And that's enough for him to afford this lifestyle. Obviously, he streams and he makes money that way too. But that was just from a single game. He has since moved on to playing other gacha games as well. Now, gaming in China, like much of its society, is super competitive. Yeah, even in the money-sinking black holes of these mobile games, Chinese gamers want to be the highest-ranking player, whether that's with higher numbers of how they do damage or how many levels there are or what items are the most precious and unique and rare. Whatever the case to measure their power level is, they want to be number one. And for many rich CCP officials' kids,
this really reminds me of that South Park episode about World of Warcraft, where the guy says that in real life, I am just John, but in World of Warcraft, I am the guy with the sword of the thousand truths, something like that, right? So I still remember when I was a kid and I had this exact same feeling. Like in high school, I was just a fat, nerdy kid that, you know, I was not that popular, but inside the game, I was like top in arenas player, like everybody in the server knew me, like I had like the best PvP gear, and it made me feel like kind of special inside the game. And I feel like that's the things that a lot of these players, a lot of like that status that they are looking forward.
It's rich princelings, third-generation red CCP family members, young kids just in general who have access to money. Instead of maybe buying a car, another Ferrari, they could drop 400, 500,000 yuan in a video game, flexing statistics as a great way to show off to the peasants. In fact, some of the old video games still being played, very popular in China today, even in the streaming industry, like Fantasy Westward Journey, so popular with millions of yuan literally being poured into the game as we speak. A player in China spent over 10 million yuan on a single account in this particular game, and that's around 1.4.
Oh, like look, this game looks it's from like Nintendo 64. Why are you playing this first? And second, why are you spending money in this game? It's
million USD. And in terms of game items, some can go to as much as 130,000 yuan, 450,000 yuan, or even 2 million yuan for a single item. Now, you might be thinking, is this some sort of like a digital cryptocurrency situation, or is it like an NFT? It's actually not. Like in most cases, these things don't really matter because they have no values except to the people who are heavily invested into the game. And the purpose of this, well, in general, let's use the term that kids use nowadays, to mog you on item levels and power levels. So you could say that Chinese gaming is like power maxing or game maxing or item level maxing, mogging everybody else, right? The analogy used in China to describe this phenomenon.
It's bot maxing, okay? Bot maxing, swipe maxing, pay to win maxing, all the maxings that. And listen, chat, I am just showing you guys a reality that very soon this is what Diablo Immortal will become.
Phenomenon in terms of
if
how
it's
spending really correlates
like this,
to achievement or success in the video game is something like a warrior in full medieval armor is shot dead by a frail old man with a pistol. It's just there's an out of this world difference in terms of the combat capability. Or you could think of it like bringing a gun to a knife fight, but for like power levels. A more recent game called Justice Online, one player named Lan Shan spent a whopping 150 million RMB on the game. In fact, that game even created a golden server for the ultra-rich spenders to play in. So this Lan Shan guy pioneered a professional salary system for his guild, and he famously said that he would give wages, essentially paying players of high levels, covering their server transfer fees, massive cash bonuses for winning championships and tournaments. And so in one instance, to boost the morale before a tournament, he purchased dozens of these Phoenix sedans, which are like horses that you ride on, for 8,000 yuan each as gifts for his guild members. So instead of giving them Rolexes, he gave them in-game horses. PDD, who is a former professional video...
Bro, these... So, in Diablo Immortal, we had something that was close to these, right? But I don't... Like, we have pilots. There are pilots everywhere that you can hire from, like, third world countries, and they have, like, it's very cheap in a way. And they will do the farming for you. But I don't think I ever heard about, like, you actually getting a salary to be part of a guild so you can just be, like, ultra competitive. That's... Bro, hey, I'm down. It looked like it was a lot of money. I mean, that guy was paying a Rolex for you to play on this clan. Yeah, your clan needs to step up. Absolutely. It's like, where is my monthly wage to stay on this guild?
Video game player spent a rumored 10 million RMB in Justice Online, the same game that this guy just dropped 150 million. But the official response from the game developer was that he only dropped 500,000 RMB. The reason why I'm not giving you them in USD is because these numbers, they sound like it's a lot, right? Well, it is a lot for a Chinese person. Here's a good, I would say a pretty good comparison, but you be the judge. Making 500,000 RMB a year in China means you're either like, say, the legal counsel for a major corporation, or you're the general manager for an up-and-coming AI company, or you're like the chief engineering for a certain brand, okay? So think of how you well with that number, but that's literally somebody's yearly salary working in an industry that actually benefits people dropped on a video game. Now, China overall has around 670 million gamers, which is more than half of its population, in spreading out through different platforms, mobile games being one of the most popular. And the market in China is projected to generate...
So half of their population plays video games.
Around 138 billion USD in 2025. And that is the largest gaming market on the planet.
This is the reason why Diablo Immortal will keep getting and becoming another Asian mobile game slop. You know, Like, I have nothing against like the games. If they enjoy to play these games, good for them. I think it is part of the culture. They enjoyed it. They enjoyed like different things that I enjoy here in the West. Like, that's the reason why I got into Diablo. And whenever I'm seeing all like these features, man, that they are very popular in Asian games, getting brought up to, classics like Diablo. I'm not a personal fan. I'm not a personal fan
by
at
a
all.
significant margin. Chinese players have access also to a unique genre, not so popular until recently, which is called the wuxia MMO genre. And this genre is one where you can kind of consider to be the equivalent of the Lord of the Ring or the World of Warcraft series, that type of mythic,
MMO.
pretty cool stuff, but like Chinese mythology. And that's where it's the genre that's been capitalizing or at the forefront of this free-to-play model, but pay-to-win fan base, right? Now, just because of the raw size of the market or the games themselves, that's not necessarily the main part of the story. It's really the culture around spend to play. Now, China's mobile gaming industry, people average a revenue per person at roughly $124 per person per year. Okay, so a single person works out on average to spend around $124. You might be thinking to yourself, like, I've never paid more than like $5 for a game. Or if you own an Xbox or PlayStation, you might have bought a game for $80 and that was it. But that's not as sounding in terms of how ridiculous that number is until you compare it to what people do in the US, okay? United States, with a far higher average income, sits at about $60 per person per year. So it's more than half. In China, they're extracting more than half or more than double per player than the wealthiest large consumer market in the world, from a country where the average urban wage is like a fraction.
So basically, China makes less money, but people tend to spend more money inside video games because it's part of their culture. And the thing is this: if you are free to play, you are like they actually not like in the West. If you are free to play, for example, I play Diablo Immortal as a free to play. A lot of people like think that's a good thing. Like, they appreciate the fact that you are free to play and you're not supporting like pay to win. But if I was doing content as a free to play in China, they will just insult me. They'll actually think I am absolutely trash. And if you want to be like a popular streamer or a popular content creator, you actually need to be the top dog and you need to pour like millions of dollars in the video game because that's how they gonna call you, that you are the freaking boss.
Not even.
So these are how very different cultures and mindsets they exist, like in China and like the rest of the world.
I would say of American salaries. So you're thinking like this, right? They're less than half or maybe even a quarter of the spending power, yet they're spending double the amount of money per person who played the video game on that particular video game. Okay, so obviously something in the design of these games is pulling money out of people's pockets, and it's at a rate that defies the income gap. So that's where, it's a culture thing, right? To understand how this works, you first kind of have to understand the hierarchy of player bases. So in the West, we call players who spend a lot of money to keep the game free, quote unquote free, as the whales, right? They're essentially the 20% or the 10% or even maybe the 5% of the player base, but they might actually be around 60 to 70% of the game's economy, okay? So Chinese gaming culture has its own...
It is like the 80-20 rule.
Similar vocabulary. It's called kejin. It's actually a translation that's mistyped from Japanese, which the term is kakin, meaning charging fees, but somehow that turned into a Chinese term, which basically means kryptonite for spending gold, or gold kryptonites. But the actual term, it just means spending money. And Chinese whales are referred to as tu house, which are basically translated to meaning that these are rich people who have no class, as in no, like they didn't come from old money, right? Or they're not even new money, but they're just like people say from the countryside that got rich, doesn't have a lot of education and whatnot. Then there's also tiers to this. There's like the God tier tu house who are like millionaires, billionaires who actually spend so much money that you will never even reach that level. And then you have slightly richer pay to win players who are just called the regular tu house. One game.
So you can actually be called a god how?
Where this was kind of making rounds because it was just so popular at the time.
It's
something
so
called
interesting.
Dungeon Fighter Online. And this is a popular video game in China because there's a top streamer who regularly would spend tens of thousands of dollars on enhancing the character's items to this insane number, which is all by chance, right? So if you fail it, it will break and then you have to start all over
this is like
again.
Lost
So you
Ark.
basically just keep spending gold which you buy with real money to keep enhancing it until you reach that.
Wait, does this has pity? Because like this was one of the most popular things in Lost Ark. They love this. They love this Gamba system.
Number. And so it basically, what it does is it allows the players to complete missions faster or extremely fast. And it got to a point where the players referred to the Chinese server as a unique server because compared to the Korean and the global release or the Japanese release, the amount of players who spent money to enhance their items has basically blown the power level off the chart.
就剩这一个了，
He's gonna get it now.
大不了再上个18是吧？我呀！
He's gonna get it. Oh my god! He got it to plus 19! Let's go! Let's go! Hell
And
yeah,
one
brother.
aspect that really fostered this at the
Yo, plus 6 damage. Plus 6 damage for $50,000.
same time as spending
Hell
is
yeah.
the streaming culture. Like I mentioned, that
Worth
live
it.
streamer is so popular. People love watching his reaction to, going up to a certain number or percentage, whatnot.
你说一个亿不行，我的这号花了
100 million. 200
应该是
million.
2个多了，应该是2个多。就我这个
Bro, listen, how much money is this guy making? Like, I am wondering how much money, like, does this guy get? Because, like, streaming, it has to be, like, I don't know. I can tell you that you don't get paid millions of dollars unless you're a top, like, maybe 100 of the streamers in the world, and most likely not even gaming. Okay, like most likely you have to be a streamer that does IRL content or politics or something like that to get like millions of dollars. But this is absolutely insane.
账号纯。
And live stream selling in China is already a big thing, right? But streamers can get rewards like big balloons, cash bonuses,
Okay.
Big rockets, these gifts, which they can in turn exchange for money. But when it comes to video games, people in China also they don't watch it just for the game, but also like how ridiculous things are. And games really, they've been deeply integrated into many other platforms, like social media, for example. Honor of Kings, which is Tencent's flagship mobile game, it's connected directly to WeChat, which basically runs China's digital life. So your friends can
Okay.
see your collection, your rank, your achievements. And in other games, like these rare and expensive items are visible to everybody, right? So because you have so many people who play this game, the fan base for you is much bigger. If you play a game in the West and say you dropped, I don't know, $30,000 on this game, like who are you going to tell it to? Nobody cares. Like they're just think that you're weird for spending that money, or at least I think most people would. But then when you go to China, this turn the idea of spending into what essentially is a social event, right? I think it's from an optional sort of
It is 100% a big clash of cultures, And I honestly don't think there is anything intrinsically wrong if you want to spend and drop like 100K, $1 million in the game. If you have that money, if you have a lot of money and you have the disposable income to spend it, it's better than probably spend it on drugs or like alcohol or ruining your life in a different way. But if you actually are addicted and you really are dropping like your life savings in any video game, yeah, probably just deleting the video game and moving on is going to be better for you.
bonus to making you play better to effectively becoming something that's mandatory or compulsory. Because if you don't do it, like the nature of games in China is not that you are in it to play it, but rather you're in it to pay to play it, right? But it's just in a different way. And so with how competitive things are, stopping.
So did you hear what he just said? Man, it kind of reminds me what I was saying on my video about the AFK farming, that AFK farming features, they not only are bad for the game, but they also, over time, they remove the reasons why you started to play the game in the first place. So look at what he says. He's not saying, oh,
Do
okay,
it. Like the nature of games in China is not that you are in it to play it.
so the nature of games in China, you're not there to play them. You're not there to play the games. You're there to pay
But
to
rather
win.
you're in it to pay to play it, right? But it's just
So that's kind of interesting, huh? And
in a different way. And so with how competitive things are, stopping or not spending more is basically like giving up. And so you keep investing into it. And that's why they generate so much revenue in China. Researching this, I found something very interesting, which is a video game. It's a mobile game called Love in Deep Space. And it's a game that attracts many female gamers. In the data from March this year, it saw that the game generated in China alone, again, $30.5 million. Genshin Impact, another mobile game, gacha game, which basically you have to, I guess, buy a chance to get the characters. That alone in China also generated nearly the same amount of revenue as its global release. Okay, so HoYoverse, the company behind it, they don't really release the official player count, but knowing the fact that China obviously has a sheer population advantage, we can still kind of estimate the numbers. According to different model and data, here's how it works. China is still the dominant revenue driver for this game called Genshin Impact, despite not having the majority of the player base. It accounts for roughly 22% of the global downloads and yet contributes about 55% of the total mobile revenue, which includes Android and iOS. If it's just iOS alone, then it's only 38.5%. But this implies that a significantly higher spending intensity among the Chinese players, which is around 2 to 2.5% of the.
So 20% of the Chinese player base brings almost 50% of the total revenue of the game.
Global average per user. And that market combines large scale, obviously there's characters, strong monetization incentives, and a lot of things that are basically tied to the game's financial performance. And so you can see that seems to be like the perfect formula for you to get people in China to spend. But having said all this, it's a lot of information. I'll just leave you with one final comment, which is that while we're complaining that the games are costing $80 with season passes, Chinese gamers are asking, when can I drop another 1,000 on this game? All right, thank you very much for watching this episode of Unclassified China. I hope you love the topic.
When can I have the, 15,000 reso? Man, I am so bored. My account is maxed since like January. Man, listen, Blizzard, I gotta spend more money. No, these wings, these wings, I already maxed them out on day one. We need more, man. We need better wings. I need to spend more money in this game so I can flex. Like it's so insane. Like I don't know, man. It's just like a different thing. However, like I thought it was a great video. I want to give a big shout out to this guy. He did an amazing job. China Insider with David Zhuang. Great channel, man. Also, you guys, if you would like to, don't forget to go down below, drop the like and the sub if you still didn't. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.